Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every city on Earth is empty. No traffic, no crowds, no noise. Just a few hundred people scattered across an entire planet. It sounds like the aftermath of an apocalypse. But according to genetic evidence, something disturbingly close to that may have happened before. Tens of thousands, or possibly hundreds of thousands, of years ago, the human population appears to have crashed so hard that our entire species may have been reduced to roughly 1,000 surviving individuals. Every person alive today may descend from that tiny group. The mystery isn't just how they survived, it's what almost wiped us out in the first place. Human beings are everywhere. There are more than 8 billion of us alive today. We've built cities visible from space, crossed oceans, split atoms, and landed machines on other worlds. It's easy to assume our dominance was inevitable. But if you compress human history into a single timeline, our survival was never guaranteed. In fact, there may have been moments when extinction came so close that it left permanent scars inside our DNA. Scientists call these events population bottlenecks. A bottleneck happens when a species experiences a dramatic reduction in numbers. Imagine pouring thousands of marbles through the narrow neck of a bottle. Only a fraction make it through. The genetic diversity on the other side becomes permanently reduced. And when researchers examined human genetics, they found evidence suggesting exactly that happened to us. Not once, possibly multiple times. For decades, one of the most famous explanations was linked to a volcano. Around 74,000 years ago, a supervolcano in present-day Indonesia erupted. Today, it's known as Toba. This wasn't an ordinary eruption. It was one of the largest volcanic events Earth has experienced in the last 2 million years. The explosion ejected thousands of cubic kilometers of material into the atmosphere. Ash spread across huge portions of Asia. Some researchers proposed that sunlight may have been blocked for years, triggering a volcanic winter. Temperatures could have fallen dramatically. Ecosystems may have collapsed. Food became scarce. And somewhere in that chaos, early human populations may have crashed. The theory gained attention because genetic evidence appeared to show surprisingly low diversity among modern humans. Compared to many animal species, humans are genetically similar to one another. Almost suspiciously similar. Some scientists argued that the Toba catastrophe might explain why. A near-extinction event, a tiny surviving population, a genetic reset button. But there was a problem. As more evidence accumulated, the story became less clear. Archaeological sites showed that some human populations appear to have survived through the eruption without obvious signs of collapse. The volcano was real. The devastation was real. But whether it nearly erased humanity remains heavily debated. Then, in 2023, another study reignited the mystery. And this time, the numbers were even more extreme. Using genetic modeling, researchers proposed that around 900,000 years ago, the ancestors of modern humans may have experienced a bottleneck unlike anything previously imagined. According to the study, the breeding population may have dropped to roughly 1,280 individuals. Not 1,000 tribes, not 1,000 families. Around 1,000 people. Total, for more than 100,000 years. If correct, this would mean our ancestors spent longer in demographic danger than the entire span of recorded human history. Think about that. The pyramids, the Roman Empire, the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, the Internet. All of it combined is only a tiny fraction of that time span. For over 100 millennia, humanity may have existed on the edge of disappearance. One bad drought, one disease, one environmental shock, and there would be no humans watching this video today. So what was happening? The honest answer is that nobody knows for certain. Around that period, Earth was changing dramatically. Climate patterns shifted, ice ages expanded and retreated, forests transformed into grasslands, rainfall patterns changed, entire ecosystems reorganized themselves. For large mammals, survival often depended on adapting quickly enough to a world that refused to stay the same. Some species couldn't. They vanished. Our ancestors somehow didn't. But survival back then looked nothing like modern life. There were no farms, no cities, no stored food, no hospitals, no governments. Every calorie had to be found, hunted, scavenged, or gathered every day. Missing a meal wasn't unusual, it was expected. A broken bone could be fatal. A predator encounter could end an entire bloodline. The people who survived weren't surviving because the world was kind. They survived because they adapted, again and again and again. And this is where the story becomes strangely personal, because those survivors are not just your ancestors. They are everyone's ancestors, every language, every country, every culture currently alive. If you go back far enough, the family trees begin to merge. The deeper you travel into the past, the fewer branches remain. And during a bottleneck, those branches narrow dramatically. The result is that every human being on Earth today carries pieces of the same ancient story. Inside your cells are genetic instructions passed down through thousands of generations. An unbroken chain stretching back through farmers, hunters, wanderers, survivors, and ultimately those few people who made it through humanity's darkest chapters. The chain never broke, not once. Because if it had, you wouldn't be here. What's remarkable isn't that humans are powerful, it's that humans are improbable. The odds were never in our favor. Our species survived ice ages, droughts, predators, disease, environmental collapse, and events we may never fully understand. At multiple points, extinction may have been closer than survival, yet somehow the line continued. Generation after generation. Until it reached you. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. When you look around today, it's easy to see humanity as permanent. Cities feel permanent. Civilization feels permanent. The future feels guaranteed. But history suggests otherwise. The existence of our species may have depended on a tiny group of people surviving conditions so harsh we can barely imagine them. A few hundred families. Maybe fewer. Standing between humanity and oblivion. And every person alive today is evidence that they succeeded. For most of human history, the question wasn't how humanity would thrive, it was whether humanity would survive at all, and against impossible odds, it did. The fact that you're here to hear this story may be one of the rarest outcomes in the history of life on Earth.